Good morning from outside the Royal Exchange in the City of London. We're all here to salute the Falklands Task Force, and by we, I mean the Lord Mayor of London, whose show it is, the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition, and out in a light rain, tens of thousands with hats and flags and balloons, and some of us with our hair dyed red, white and blue as at the Royal Wedding. 1,250 men and women of the task force will march from Armoury House in City Road 1 mile to lunch at the Guildhall. A victory parade. Brigadier David Ramsbotham, Director of Public Relations for the Army, is with me. David, you don't actually go with the phrase victory parade.
No, it is a victory parade. I prefer the phrase saluting the task force. It gives us all a chance to salute everyone involved throughout the whole operation.
And I should think there's probably about 50,000 now that the offices have emptied here to give that salute. Here in the heart of the city of London that has honoured the victory of English and then of British arms all through history. And the city is certainly out in force to do so today. Above the Mansion House, the flag of the city flies, and its front is decked with the three flags of the city, of the United Kingdom, and of the Falkland Islands. On the balcony with the red and white striped awning, the Lord Mayor, Sir Christopher Lever, has already got many of his guests out. The Prime Minister will be there. The Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Foote, is there. Admiral of the Fleet, Sir Terence Lewin, now Lord Lewin, and Field Marshal Sir Edwin Bramall. They will all be, and of course, Sir Sandy Woodward, I can see on the extreme left-hand side. And beneath, on the pavement, the captains and colonels of the campaign are gathering to watch too, together with the Chelsea pensioners, the veterans of earlier wars. Beyond the Royal Exchange, behind the traffic lights, saying it too salutes the task force, the band of the 1st Battalion Scots Guards has been playing, and we've all been singing. The Royal Exchange, founded, as it says above, in the 13th year of the first Queen Elizabeth, be founded in the 8th year of Queen Victoria. And in front, keeping a dark, disciplinary eye on things, the Duke of Wellington. He stands in front of the Royal Exchange. Rides, in fact, put up there in 1844. Now, the Duke got a sword from a grateful city in 1812, a little while after Nelson, and we expect 2 swords of honour to be given today to Sir Sandy Woodward and Sir Jeremy Moore, the 2 chief leaders of the task force. That'll happen at lunch. And here comes the first fly past of the helicopters, coming in 5V formations. Helicopters flying now over the Thames, as indeed they flew over Port Stanley in a victory fly past when that capital was retaken. We'll see more of those as they come in over us here at the Mansion House. So it's all happening in a city that would perhaps much of it be unrecognised by the men who marched in the last victory parade after the last war. They wouldn't recognise the concrete towers which have gone up of the new stock exchange, nor indeed of that huge glass tower 600 feet high of the NatWest Bank, where from the top you can see 7 counties and London, and no doubt the helicopters arriving. We'll be waiting for the helicopters in a moment. Later we'll see the Harriers and the other fixed-wing planes that fought in the Falklands. Now, it's not just military men today. Quite a number of women went south with the task force, and some of them are going to be marching today in the parade. Terry Lloyd reports.
Only 3 females will be on parade today, but they all played a vital part in the Falklands campaign. 21-year-old naval nurse Susan Offen was the youngest nurse aboard the SS Uganda. With her was a more experienced nurse, Christine Poole, who switched from civilian nursing to the Navy for adventure. She certainly found it, along with 23-year-old Lois Wheeler, who worked as assistant purser on the SS Canberra. All 3 share the horrors of war, plus the worry of marching today. They've never had to march before.
I worked in a casualty department before, but of course we never had the great number of casualties then that we did on the ship.
Is it a sort of trip that you'd go on again?
I wouldn't volunteer, but if I was told to go, yes, I would.
Now, what about the march? How do you feel about that?
Well, looking forward to it, and obviously very honoured to be chosen to do it, but a bit apprehensive.
It was a shock to find out, or to realise the ship was in the position that it would be going to war. or confliction, as they say down there. But once we were asked to volunteer, asked if we would volunteer, and then decided to go, well, we were quite happy about the situation. It was our ship, and we were going with it.
And what about the march, the next big day for you?
Very nervous. I'm more nervous about that than anything else, I think.
When it was first announced, I couldn't believe it. And then when I was told I was going, I couldn't believe that. I thought we'd get to Gibraltar, that we'd turn around and come home. We got to Gibraltar, we sailed on to the Ascensions. I thought we'd get to the Ascensions and come home. And next minute we were in the Falklands and it was still going on.
And above London, just a little bit downriver, we see three Sea Kings of the second V formation of the Fly Past coming in towards the city. They're from 846, 825 and 826 Naval Air Squadrons. The workhorse, David, of the Falklands campaign.
Absolutely. They did remarkably, both not supporting the task force at sea and, of course, an enormous amount of lifting stuff to support the soldiers on land. And, of course, they carried out the vital anti-submarine role in protection of the ships at sea.
Well, they're making good progress, and they're due over us. That's the very first formation, led by a Lynx of the Exeter flight, Lieutenant Commander Ron Goddard from Cornwall, 2 Wasps and 2 Wessexes. And they are leading the way. One of the Wessexes of HMS Anson's flight, which took such an important part in the recapture of South Georgia.
That's right.
Well, we can see them from our own helicopter. The clouds are fairly thick over London, but we'll certainly hope to see them, and all those on the saluting base are waiting for them to come. Now, a number of wounded are going to march today too. David Mannion's been speaking to them.
Warrant Officer John Phillips won his Distinguished Service Cross for a particular kind of bravery. His lot was to help defuse unexploded Argentine bombs lodged deep in the bows of British ships. In one blinding moment on HMS Antelope, a highly unstable bomb exploded, ripping off his left arm and killing his close friend. Today he's marching for all his friends who gave lives or limbs to help save others. Corporal Stephen Newland of the Royal Marines paid heavily too for his military medal. Both legs were shattered by bullets from an Argentine gun in the battle for Mount Harriet, leaving these permanent scars.
Well, without the training, I'd probably be dead now. So I think it's to be in good stead.
How much does the medal mean to you?
Well, I think it's important. It's not just for me, but for my unit, because they all deserve it, really. They all deserve a medal.
And on the saluting base, the Lord Mayor, Christopher Lever, taking off his hat, and the Prime Minister waving. On the Lord Mayor's right, on his left, our right, is Admiral of Fleet Sir Terence Lewin. So we've got a full muster ready to see the parade. And, of course, we're starting with 2 police vans for security as they march down Moorgate, making good pace from Armoury House. And behind the 2 police vans, we have a mounted detachment of the City Police, who, of course, it's their show today. Usually they share with the Metropolitan Police, but it's their show. And riding behind them, we can just make out the City of London Police Commissioner, Mr. Peter Marshall, and Chief Superintendent, Mr. Don Smith. And behind, we have the bands and the Royal Naval Contingent. Starting with the mass bands of Her Majesty's Royal Marines. From Deal, the Royal Marine School of Music, and Flag Officer Third Flotilla. And Mrs. Thatcher wearing, I would say, navy blue, but with a white hat, appropriate for what is in many ways going to be predominantly a naval occasion. The Navy, of course, traditionally leading the way in this march through the city of London. The last parade that went by here was from HMS Amethyst.
Yes. Now, behind the Prime Minister, you could just see the Chief of the Defence Staff. There we have the band of the Marines, and coming in behind, the first detachment, which is led by the Captain of HMS Ardent, Captain Nick West, awarded the DSC in the honours list published on Monday. His detachment,
But they're coming down Moorgate now, and moving. They have to make a pretty sharp left turn and then a right turn before they come into view of Mrs. Thatcher and the Lord Mayor. and all those waiting on the saluting base. So we'll be seeing them again, but they're getting a great reception as they come down. Children out with flags, office workers, and they've turned out in their lunch hour for the city and to salute the task force. No doubt there'll be some quite remarkable traffic jams going on all around this square mile, but nobody inside is worrying very much about that at the moment. So on the platform, Mr. Michael Foot, the leader of the opposition, leader of the Labour Party. We should point out that the leader of the Liberal Party, Mr. David Steele, was also invited, but he declined. There's Admiral Fleet's Lord Lewin. Now we must call him that, since he has been promoted. And of course, just to finish our political footnote, in case anybody's insulted, the Social Democratic Party leaders are of course holding their party conference and also feel they can't be here today. Mrs. Thatcher certainly here and certainly enjoying herself. Well, the city changes and the construction workers come along in order to join and cheer and sing. Among the bandsmen here, there's those belonging to the Flag Officer 3rd Flotilla. And he is, of course, Rear Admiral Reffell, who can't be here because he's in charge in the South Atlantic.
He took over from Admiral Woodward and allowed him to come back.
He's very kindly lent his bandsman today.
Yes.
So they swing round in a short while. They're coming round past the walls of the Bank of England. And I wonder what's happening upstairs. Yes, here we come. Here come the helicopter flights. The 5V formations. Just beginning to come visible, and in the rear formation, the 3 Chinooks. They are really substantial, looming through the mist. Of course, only 1 Chinook really operated in the Falklands. I think 3 were lost with the Atlantic Conveyor.
The tragedy was the others going down at Atlantic Conveyor, one of the most significant material losses in the whole campaign. But they're...
And they can see them now. Mrs. Thatcher pointing them out. Almost applauded. Everyone else is applauding. Coming over the NatWest building within sight of the City of London. So that's the first fly past of all the helicopters of all the various types that took part in the Falklands campaign. And meantime now we come to more of the army, the land forces, approaching us. And past the spire of St. Paul's, where so many people have gone to give thanks for victory from Henry V onwards. That was an earlier St. Paul's, certainly crossing London River. So they're still coming towards us, and all the vehicles have got their lights on as if they're expecting bad weather.
Always done when you're moving in convoy on the road, and certainly essential today as we get nearer Falklands than London weather.
Well, I suppose they're very used to marching in the rain or yomping in the rain. It's the crowds here are not quite so fit.
No, they seem to come prepared, many of them, looking at the slash of the umbrellas.
And just coming into view in front of the Mansion House so that they can be seen by the Lord Mayor and all his guests and dignitaries and all the top brass. The very first approach, the first sight of the opening of the parade. Here come the Marines, and this is what Mrs. Thatcher and the Lord Mayor, Mr. Foot, and everyone else can now see. Now the dignified figure riding on horseback is Colonel John Howard, the City Marshal, He's an ex-hussar, and he's riding Saturn, a Metropolitan Police force. Saturn actually led the way when the Blues and Royals were attacked by the IRA car bomb in Hyde Park. He escaped unscathed that day, unlike Sefton and some of the others. And now he's here today to grace this parade.
An officer of the 13th, 18th Hussars, known as the Lily Whites, is in fact appropriately swear to riding a grey horse. The difference between the two Marine bands that you'll see marching is that the bandsmen who went south to the Falkland Islands will be wearing their Lovat uniform. The bandsmen who remained in the United Kingdom will be wearing their traditional blue.
Because not everybody in the parade actually went to the Falklands. Many are here to represent those units. And here's the Royal Navy. We should, of course, remember those who went to the Falklands and who did not come back. More than 250. And those who are injured and will bear the scars through life. Those are the absentees whose families, too, will be proud of this day.
All right.
Naval contingent led by Commander Alan West. Behind him, Lieutenant Commander Morgan. This is the first detachment. Men and officers from Hermes, Sheffield, a variety of ships. The second detachment from Invincible, Endurance, and Onyx.
And also members of the merchant navy such as Stena Seaspread and St. Edmund, which carried the prisoners of war for a long time on the Falkland Islands. Onyx, the only conventional submarine to take part in the campaign.
We do have representatives of the nuclear submarines that went south, Valiant and Courageous, but not of Conqueror. Conqueror, the submarine that sank the Argentine cruiser Belgrano and thereby shortened the naval war considerably. But we're told that Conqueror is actually at sea at the moment.
Now, Group 4 includes HMS Intrepid, HMS Coventry, HMS Ardent, and particularly the fleet clearance diving teams who won very distinguished awards in the list published the other day. And also QE2 and Uganda.
And marching, of course, with Group 5, we have a number of civil servants marching in dark suits. They too took their part. There's a naval nurse going by, one of the few women on the parade.
Miss Wheeler.
And here come the civil servants in their dark suits. They too played their part, as indeed did so many in the dockyards and elsewhere, making the fleet ready.
We remember particularly people on Norland, which has done more work moving to and from Ascension to the Falklands than any other ship in the whole campaign, and is still down there with a second crew on board.
And Saxonia is still there, I think, as well, David.
That's right.
Bedivere of the Royal Fleet Auxiliary too.
That's absolutely right.
And here now come Marine Commando.
Captain Ware, with the Royal Marines, wrote a march called San Carlos, which is one of the pieces of music being played today. He's at the back of the column.
The Marine Band acted as stretcher bearers in the Falklands. And, of course, it's rumoured that they were due to be axed in the Defence Cuts. Well, if they put on a good show today, as they certainly are, no doubt Mr. John Knott, who's one of those watching, and the Prime Minister, they have other thoughts.
Bands are always a very emotional subject, particularly if they're going to be cut. Major Southerby Taylor, leading the Marines, wrote the cruising guide, which was very useful when we were doing our landing.
And here, led by Major Ewan Southerby Taylor, come the Marines. Here come the lorries, the 105mm guns, which did such good work above Port Stanley.
29 Commando Light Regiment.
Now, many people said the army was wrong to have designed and manufactured these guns once it pulled out from east of Suez, but they're used in Norway, and they came in very useful in the Falklands.
They were a battle-winning factor. The guns fired 6,000 rounds in the last 12 hours of the Battle of Stanley.
Well, marching today, Corporal Newland, who was wounded in both legs at Mount Harriet, he gets the military medal, and Marine Marshal took part in machine gun action at Two Sisters, also the military medal.
The commando gunners wearing their gunner badge in their green beret.
And there's a salute. Eyes on the Lord Mayor, who's taking the salute now, but on all the other dignitaries, Mr. Michael Foot nodding benignly. He supported the task force, as did the Labour front bench.
And these are the rigid radar craft which performed so admirably, not just in San Carlos water, but also in South Georgia. A new piece of equipment which proved itself extremely useful.
And here come the bandwagons. They're made in Sweden. They were designed by the Swedish Army. They're over-snow vehicles. They also are able to cover marshy territory as well.
And that's coming up behind. You see the combat engineer tractor. Very important vehicle, this, because it's been fitted with a flail which used to help lift the mines.
Well, now here we come to the Royal Artillery Band. They weren't there, and they're wearing their traditional uniform. So we're coming now into the Army section of the march. Let's hear that.
We have the band, following the band of the artillery, what is called the supporting arms detachment. Men of 4th Field Regiment Royal Artillery, the Air Defence, the Royal Engineers, who did so much gallant work lifting the mines both before and after the campaign.
And marching with them, Warrant Officer Phillips, who won the DSE in bomb disposal, lost an arm in the Falklands. And they say he was clearing a mine on Chatham Beach just the other day.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
Insisted on marching today. And now we have the Guards Division, regimental band of the Welsh Guards, and they'll be followed by the mass corps of drums of the 2nd Battalion Scots Guards and 1st Battalion Welsh Guards, who were in the South Atlantic. And of course, the pipes and drums of the 2nd Battalion Scots Guards.
And performed particularly gallantly, not just at Tumbledown, but also in the Sir Galahad incident, which we remember.
Now the foot guards, they'll be led by Lieutenant Colonel Michael Scott, DSO. He won that at touchdown, Tumbledown, in a 9-hour action. And
Lieutenant Colonel Johnny Ricketts of the Welsh Guards, who won the OBE, who one particularly remembers for the tragedy at Sir Galahad at Fitzroy.
And here come the Paras. They've been marching behind their mass band, 2nd and 3rd battalions. And though they were fighting in the Falklands, they have come out in their #1 uniform.
That's right, because not all the bandsmen were, and so to produce a mass band, they've all turned out in the same uniform. But those in the south, of course, are wearing the Atlantic Medal. Atlantic Medal. Following the band of the Parachute Regiment, the contingent of the 2nd and 3rd Battalion, led by Lieutenant Colonel Hugh Pike, commanding officer of the 3rd Battalion, who won the DSO in the Battle of Longdon, which was the battle in which more soldiers were killed than in any other during the campaign. A number of distinguished members of the regiment there, including Captain Norman Minges, the quartermaster of 3rd Battalion, Corporal Bailey, who won the Medal Medal on the Battle of Mount Longdon, Major Neame, company commander from the 2nd Battalion, and finally them come the detachment of the supporting arms, without whom the campaign could not go forward. The Royal Corps of Transport, the Royal Army Ordnance Corps, the Royal Signals. And now the band of the 1st, 7th Duke of Edinburgh's Gurkha Rifles.
And they're playing with a will. Them, Lieutenant Colonel David Morgan, OB.
Yes.
And as the Gurkhas march proudly by, we come next to a very familiar scene. This is the mounted band of the Blues and Royals. They weren't in the Falklands. As everyone remembers, they had their own troubles with the IRA in Hyde Park at about that time. And they come down Threadneedle Street, past the Bank of England, and the band strikes up for everyone's benefit. Here we come with armoured vehicles, 2 Scorpions with 76mm guns and 2 Scimitars with 30mm Ryan cannon. And the crowd is singing. About 100 men of the Blues and Royals went to the Falklands with their armoured fighting vehicles, and they had a little parade in Windsor when they came back.
And the troop commander, Lieutenant Mark Corrith, of course, was mentioned in dispatches.
And as they go by, the vehicles about which everyone heard so much, they'll be followed again by the 4th Field Regiment Royal Artillery with their 105mm light gun detachment. Now, many people, David, I think in Moscow and Potsdam and other dictatorships would be surprised at the small scale of the armor and of the artillery that are going by. I mean, there's no battle tank, nothing like that. It's a very modest parade.
It's a modest parade. It's representative, of course, and therefore smaller. But, of course, one must remember that this was an infantry war once we were on land. And you've seen representatives of all the people taking part and the equipment they used.
And here come the Rapier launchers. These were the anti-aircraft missiles that went ashore at San Carlos. And the crowd has certainly heard of them. They're getting a special cheer on their own.
And they proved themselves to be highly effective from the moment that they put ashore, and protecting not just the area around San Carlos, but where else they were deployed. And of course, we must remember that there are detachments of these still down in the Falklands.
So they've got the missiles coming as they swing round past the Mansion House. And the crowds put down their umbrellas. The rain has stopped mercifully. It was forecast, but it's all but stopped. And so it's become another splendid day. There go the Rapiers. Policeman studies them intently.
British Aerospace were pleased with that shot.
And some of those on the saluting base will know what they mean, and others will just admire. And now we have yet another band approaching us, and this one is very well known, the Central Band of the Royal Air Force. By marching, officers and airmen who flew in support of the task force from the Victor tankers, the Vulcan, 4450 and 101 squadrons, Harrier GR3, 1 and 3 squadrons, Nimrods, Hercules, Chinook pilots and Sea King pilots from 15 units of the Royal Air Force, including RAF Gütersloh, where the Harriers came from.
And one mustn't forget also the RAF bomb disposal teams who played a particularly gallant part along with their Royal Engineer colleagues. And here come the Rapiers of the RAF regiment.
Yes, the Tactical Communications Wing, the Supply Wing, RAF Armament Support Unit, and United Kingdom Mobile Air Movement Squadron, all represented. Everyone. And that corporal has particularly proud half smile.
You can see the rosette for service in the Falklands on the ribbon of the medal.
And here come the big boys. Here come the Victors, the tankers of 55 and 57 Squadron, the lead Victor, Squadron leader Barney Neal, who made 22 sorties. They disappear a little into the cloud. We're a little worried about whether we can see them with the low clouds in London today. And the salute from the last detachment of the mounted police. The two have had their day, and behind them come police vehicles, security, and all the rest. Just to make sure that there's no interruption on the day. There's been tight security all along the route. Policemen on the top of buildings looking in at the crowds too. There are 3 V formations for the RAF now. The Victors, then the Vulcans. Here, Victors with
Harriers in the fueling position. Yes. Sea Harriers in the first pair, and GR3s in the second.
Some of their pilots, like Wing Commander Peter Squire, DFC, he flew 32 sorties.
And here come the Vulcans from RAF Waddington, responsible for the bombing of Port Stanley airfield.
Well, they perhaps can't see the flags waving down on the ground, but we can just dimly glimpse them.
And here the Nimrods from RAF Kinloss not only carried out surveillance around the Argentinian coastline, but the vital base around Ascension Island.
And of course, one of the great successes, Austin David, was the refueling in flight, which kept them
quite remarkable.
In the air,
An enormous advance that was made extremely quickly, particularly, I think, with the Hercules, which was done very quickly by British industry to get them ready to play their part.
There goes the VC-10.
Responsible for carrying vast numbers of people to and from Ascension Island.
Here he comes alone over the city. Squadron leader David Birch. 17 sorties to Ascension. And so they go on over the skyline of London. And the West End will be able to see them now. And finally the Hercules.
The real workhorse. And landing at Port Stanley, refueling ships at sea, or air-to-air refuel from Ascension. Remarkable aircraft, performed quite splendidly. And quite rightly, there have been awards to members of the Hercules force for what they did.
I think officially they say 2,113 sorties, and the Hercules altogether, 24, 30, 47 and 70 squadrons, flew over 4 million miles in the Falklands campaign. So that's the fly past. Mrs. Thatcher gives a wave to the crowd. The Lord Mayor indicates that perhaps that's the end of the entertainment here, and they'll be moving on to the Guildhall for the lunch. Waiting at the Guildhall will be 6 of the men wounded in the Falklands, who will be there. A wave from Lord Lewin. Mr. Thatcher smiling out at the crowds. Mr. John Knott taking a look, possibly for the last time as Defence Secretary, and with the sword bearer and mace bearer, the Lord Mayor leads his principal guest. He was in the Royal Army Ordnance Corps, I believe.
I gather, yes.
So it's a great day for him. I bet he never believed.
Great day for him, who played, of course, a major part in the whole campaign, getting the stores and supplies both out to Ascension, out to the Falklands, and thence forward to the battle troops.
And the office workers are enjoying their lunch, particularly as the rain has stopped. The umbrellas are down, and now it seems that an unofficial procession is trying to get by, but the police will be watching that under Wellington's statue.